Julian Ginter.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. What that previous speaker really exemplified was the extent to which this national government is all about spin and not about substance, and not willing to debate substantial issues and how we can actually create a fairer, greener New Zealand. I know that most New Zealanders want to live in a society where everyone has a fair go, where we don't have people sleeping on the streets or sleeping in cars, where kids are going to school hungry, and that limits their opportunities in the future. I know that most New Zealanders, even the ones who voted for this national government, don't want that. And I know most New Zealanders, probably all New Zealanders, love our precious natural environment, as I do. This is the reason I immigrated to New Zealand and made it my home, is because I absolutely love the native forests, the beaches, the mountains. It's a fantastic place to live. And I know that all the people who live here want to protect it for the long term, for their children and grandchildren. They don't want to see it be lost at the short term, just to get some short-term economic growth. They want a long-term strategy that protects our people and protects our environment. And the reason I got involved in politics is because I was just trying to be a problem solver. You know, I focused on urban planning and transport because I could see there were a lot of opportunities to get those win-wins in that area where we could get a better environment, save money, and get a better outcome for people in cities. Healthier, happier cities. What a fantastic opportunity. I had to get involved in politics because politicians in New Zealand were making the calls and deciding to put lots of money into really outdated, uneconomic motorway projects. It was such a missed opportunity. In fact, this national government is continuing to do that. So I joined the Green Party because I could see the Green Party was the party with these smart, forward-looking policies that will actually deliver a much more successful society and will deliver more jobs for New Zealanders that will actually protect our environment and enhance the well-being of our citizens. And I know it's very easy for the members in the National Party to get up and claim that the Green Party are a bunch of loonies, don't understand the economy. Yeah, if there's 59 of them going around saying that, I don't doubt that people have the impression that the Green Party doesn't have serious economic policy. But when you look at the reality, the substance, the Green Party is the most economically realistic party in this parliament. And I have to say, you know, some of the opposition parties aren't too bad, and we want to work with them. We want to work with them. But although the National Party spin is that they are the best party for jobs in the economy, the reality is becoming glaringly obvious. Just look at the Reserve Bank's statement today. That was a damning indictment of 8 years of national short-term approach, which has mismanaged the economy. That's their short-term approach to governing. National are unwilling to take the courageous hard calls. Now, they went against popular public opinion and went off and partially privatized the energy companies with asset sales. That wasn't popular. It also was a fiscal and economic failure. It barely raised any money. We flooded the market with energy shares at one time, which drove down the price, meant we got less revenue. And now the cost of those foregone dividends has almost exceeded the amount that we received from those sales. So it was an economic and fiscal failure. But what could National have done instead? They could have listened to the Treasury and actually implemented a comprehensive capital gains tax back in 2010 when the Treasury was begging them to. And that would have raised a lot of revenue, which we could be using to invest in infrastructure to deal with our population growth. It would have been a fair way to raise that revenue. It would have helped reduce the growing gap between the haves and the have-nots. And it wouldn't have solved the Auckland housing bubble, there's no question about that, but it would have dampened it a bit. And at the very least, it was a fair way to raise revenue. It's not fair that New Zealanders, middle New Zealand, go to work, collect their paycheck, pay tax on that, but that rich elite class who are able to own lots of property can earn hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in Auckland, not lifting a finger in tax-free capital gains. That's not fair, it's not right, it's not good for the economy, and that's why we're pretty much the only country in the OECD that doesn't have a capital gains tax, because it's not economically sensible. So if this government was really serious about governing for the long term and creating a sustainable economy that looked after everyone, they would have dealt with the housing crisis in the last 8 years, but they haven't. Pretty much their statements in this House are fact-free. They don't even really believe in objective reality. If we take the Prime Minister seriously, he thinks that he can find a scientist who will give him whatever opinion he wants to hear. And I don't doubt that he thinks that, but it's not true. And unfortunately, this fact-free approach to politics really undermines the public's confidence in politicians and in our political system. And as a result, they're less likely to participate. And that's bad for democracy, it's bad for our society. This is how we know that things aren't going well, despite Nationals' protestations to the contrary. They say GDP growth is great, economy's going gangbusters. We know that's not working for everyone because homelessness is at an all-time high. And for the first time, we're getting enormous reports of people having to live in cars, or live on the street. We know it's not working because 62% of our monitored rivers are not safe for swimming. That's not right. That's not the New Zealand that we want to live in, where the majority of our monitored rivers are unsafe for swimming in. We can do better than this. We don't have to trade away our rivers in order to have jobs. That's rubbish. The GDP growth is not a solution for the increasing number of children who are growing up in poverty and going to school hungry. And although there have been a few tinkering solutions, the reality is this government hasn't done everything they could do to eliminate child poverty. There is no reason any child in New Zealand should grow up in poverty without a warm, safe, dry, secure home. There's no reason they should go to school and be hungry. It's not in our short-term or long-term interests to allow this to continue. And the budget is all about priorities. Budget 2016 did nothing to address child poverty. It did nothing to address climate change. It did not nothing, probably actually made the situation worse when it comes to our rivers by subsidizing irrigation, which doesn't make economic sense and will lead to increased pollution in our rivers. And they shake their heads, but the truth is they are in denial. They are unwilling to confront the facts. I am here to bring these facts, as all my colleagues are, to the public of New Zealand who can see that things are not working for all New Zealanders, and we can do better. Even in opposition, the Greens have delivered smart, practical policies that are already benefiting New Zealand. The home insulation scheme, over $300 million on making homes warmer and healthier. That was only 1/3 of what the Greens proposed, but it was our idea, and at least National went ahead with it. Urban cycleways, over $300 million over 3 years to make it safer for people to walk and cycle in towns and cities, which reduces congestion, is great for health, is great for our cities. That was a Green Party idea. Electrification of Auckland's rail network, which has been enormously successful. Now the City Rail Link, even though they haven't committed funding to it, they've realized it has to happen after dragging their feet for years. Predator-free New Zealand, what a good idea, National, but you actually have to fund it if you want to make it a reality. The Green Party has proposed a perfectly logical, eminently doable way to fund this predator-free New Zealand goal. We launched it today, the Tonga levy, which would be a small amount of money for all the millions of tourists who are coming to our country, which would help fund protection of our conservation estate and ridding New Zealand of predators. Wouldn't it be great if the government actually followed through with their promises with actual policy that would deliver on affordable housing, smart green transport, carbon-friendly jobs, and protecting our rivers and our conservation estate? We can do this. It's absolutely possible. And that's why I'm here, because I know that it's a possibility. But it only is if we change the government.